My name's Tony. I thought I'd do a quick little video, sort of tell you what it's like working for an agency if you're starting off driving HGVs. I drive HGV Class 1. I passed my test about 3 months ago maybe. Managed to get myself a seat in with a company through an agency. And I'd say it's going pretty good. A few little things you need to look out for when you're going for it. Obviously when you start off, that lack of experience, and people don't want to go near most drivers who haven't got kind of 6 months under their belt. What I did was I got myself registered with the agency, phoned up a few jobs I was quite keen on doing, and yeah, they were lucky enough. One of the jobs I wanted to do, I offered a day unpaid so I could sort of sit in the seat with one of the drivers who was already there. Did a day with them, started sort of 4 o'clock in the morning, did a full day with him in the passenger seat next to me. We went out, did a few deliveries, went through the roads, went through the ropes of actually doing the job. And luckily, in the current climate, they went in, they were happy with the day I did, and I started on the next Monday on my own out in the truck. Money's good through an agency. It's one of the pros. I mean, there's plenty of money on the table. You can kind of choose what days you want to do and what times you want to do as well. I want to stay on days because, I want to be awake when my kids are awake. So come the weekend, I don't want to be on the wrong sleeping pattern. Luckily, there's loads of work available. If I was on nights, there would have been just as much work available and probably a bit more money on the table as well. But no, this is what suits me. I mean, it's the summer holidays now. If I want to have a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off and I want to spend a few days, take the kids down the beach and stuff, do the agency, I can do that. That's one of the big pluses. But obviously on the flip side, I've had it where I've been in, worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I've had a text in the afternoon saying, cheers Tony, but we don't need you Thursday and Friday. So that's the other side of things. As much as I've got the freedom to work as and when, they've also, the ball's in their court, they can cut my week short at any point. On the flip side, I suppose my agency I'm with, I won't name them, but the agency I'm with, they're always looking for drivers, especially at the moment there's a shortage. If for instance they say on a Wednesday they don't need me, I can phone my agency and you can pretty much guarantee they'll say, well, company X, Y and Z needs someone tomorrow if you're available. The only downside is then you go into a new place, getting used to a new truck, starting from a new depot. And I mean, it's all the same thing, most of these lorries are pretty much the same from one to the other, but it's that kind of upheaval of starting from a new place. You get that anxiety of going into a new depot. Do I see what sort of runs am I going to be doing? What are the trailers and the trucks going to be like? But honestly, it's all gone pretty good. To be honest, one of the things that you're most anxious about when you first start driving them on your own is obviously kind of the responsibility of being in this big massive truck with this valuable load, whatever it may be, on the back. And you got that kind of pressure on you that you are out of the driving seat with the instructors and stuff. And it's true what they say, you need to really start learning after you've passed your test. That's when you really start learning. But honestly, it's good as gold. Most of the drivers you see are good as gold. The trickiest bit I found at the start was, when you arrive at your first depot, there's loads of lorries parked up left, right and centre. You're not going to do the manoeuvre you did when you passed your test. It's real life, you're going to have to get back onto a bay. And you can guarantee, sod's law, the bay you want to go back on day one will be right in between two other really smart trucks, and the gap just looks tiny. But, the main thing is you take your time, give yourself as much space as you can give yourself to do the manoeuvre. And honestly, if you find it a bit tricky, 95% of the other drivers out there are sound. I mean, they've been there before, they've been starting from the bottom. And you've got to remember, no matter how many drivers, how many years experience you got and how comfortable your family and your friends feel with you driving, when you start these trucks, don't go in super confident, super cocky. You're still wet behind the ears, you're starting from scratch. But if you're having trouble getting back onto these bays, 90% of the drivers will gladly get out and they'll give you tips, they'll watch you back, they'll be patient waiting for you to get back into your space. I mean, whichever depot you go to, if there's trunkers there, those guys are just flat out everywhere. Just, if they're that desperate to get past you, give them a space, let them get past and do your manoeuvre. If it takes you 6 or 7 shunts to get back into a space, I mean, so be it. If no damage gets done and the load gets delivered intact, I mean, they don't care. It's not a case of they say, get on your bay, you've got a minute before we're unloading you. No, everyone's taking their time. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, you'll probably end up waiting 40 minutes for your bloody paperwork once you're done. But there's no point in rushing. You've got plenty of time. If you start rushing, you'll make mistakes. Last thing you want to do when you just started with a new company and you're building up this experience is turning up back of the yard, oh, I've damaged the trailer, I've snapped the airlines, or whatever it may be, when it's something that's easily avoidable. You know, so I'd recommend getting onto lorries to anyone. I mean, you'll speak to some drivers who've been doing it for years and years. The one thing I've learned from chatting to drivers is some right miserable gits out there, but they're all sound. More than happy to pass on whatever knowledge they've got. More than happy to watch you back into a bay if needs be, you know. And I think a lot of them are quite happy to pass on what knowledge they've got. So, I mean, I've been driving with this company now, like I say, I'm probably 3 months in. I'm feeling a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident. And the reversing onto the bays is not something you worry about now. You know, you get there, you've got to do it. I mean, it all takes time, it all takes practice. You'll find your own way of doing it. I mean, one little tip I will give you is if you can turn around in the yard and you need to reverse onto a bay, if you can be reversing on your open side that you can see, so you can stick your head out the window and have a look, that'll make your life a lot bloody easier. Because as soon as you're reversing in on the blind side, as soon as you've turned that cab and you can't see what's there, you're in the lap of the gods. You just got to hope that you've got enough space to get yourself out into, and or have someone there if you're lucky enough to watch you back. So that's the best tip I could give. Take your time, give yourself plenty of space to try and have it on this side, because as soon as you lose sight of the back of your trailer in this mirror, you can stick your head out the window, have a look, happy days. I was always told if there's a gap in your mirror, there's a gap. You know, the gap's still there. When you're reversing your normal car, if you can see a gap between your car and the car next to you, there's a gap there. Same with the trailer, but the thing is, it disappears out of your mirror quite bloody quickly. So you can always stick your head out the window, make your life a bit easier then. And like I say, and if you have to shunt forwards and backwards a couple of times, who cares? Who cares? You're getting your load delivered, you're getting your load delivered intact and on time. Who cares how many shunts it takes you? I've seen drivers driving for big posh companies, again, which I won't mention, and they come in thinking, the dog's dangly, try and whip it back onto a bay, miss by 3.5 foot, and then they're shuffling back and forwards, moving over 2 inches at a time, just because they were rushing and trying to get it done quick. Whereas if they came in a bit slower, took a slightly wider arc, they could have got straight back on the bay, and probably made their life a lot easier, you know. And that's what you need to remember when you're starting out. Like, I'm still a newbie, I'm still a real newbie. One reason I'm doing this little video now is because I was lucky enough I got back to the yard. I've done about 9 hours today, and they're like, yeah, happy days, Tone, you're done, head home. So I'm on a nice, quiet, easy little run down the motorway back to where my car's parked, and I'll drop off the unit, and then I'm back in tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Like I say, it's all been pretty good. It's been really good. Everywhere you go, people are really patient. You don't want to be that driver who's, watching the clock thinking, oh shit, I'm going to have to get on break, I might run out of driving hours. It's not the end of the world. You get used to watching the clock. If you tell someone you're waiting a while for your paperwork, if you go in without being a dick and being impatient and shouting and swearing, you can go in and just say, look, my clock's running a bit low, I've got a 3-hour drive back to Newport, I've only got sort of 4.5 hours bloody working time left. You'll tend to find if you go in and you're nice to them and you're polite, they'll try and do what they can to get you unloaded and get you off the bay and get you back home. Because no one wants to be stuck in the trunk. Unless you're trunking, no one wants to run out of driving hours and be stuck sleeping in the cab for 9 hours till they can take you bloody home. No one wants to be there. But it all comes with, you learn your route. If they're asking you to do a job that you know is too far, you know you're not going to get home in time. I mean, you don't have to say yes. That's the other good thing with your agency. You know, you can't say, well, hang on, if you want me to drive to the other side of London and I'm going to hit London at lunchtime, you know full well you hit London during the working day, and that M25, you're losing 2.5, 3 hours on that M25. One breakdown, you can be sat there for hours. I was talking to a guy the other day and he came from London. It was the only run he had. He went over to London, did his drop off at Coca-Cola, and he was coming back, got caught in traffic, and he ended up doing a 14-hour day and he did one drop, just because that M25 screwed him. But again, that stuff you'll suss out as and when you go. You know, you see where you're going, you know how far you're going to have to be going, how long it should roughly take you. You shouldn't really run out of driving time or driving hours, and you've got your 9 hours driving, your 4.5 hours, 45-minute break, however you want to take it, and your other 4.5 hours. If you do run close, you can take another 45 minutes, and a couple of times a week you can get up to that 10 hours. So you don't want to be busting a gut, racing down a motorway, you know, getting all your over-speeding warnings on your tacho, trying to make up time. You've got that time in the bag, that extra hour. And I mean, luckily, touch wood, I've never run out of driving hours, and I've been on some runs up north, all the way down south to Cornwall. You know, you just got to take it in your stride, and you can tend to work it out. The other good tip I'd definitely give you is get a sat-nav that knows you're in a lorry. I mean, my very first day on the truck, I just turned up, like I say, I was nervous, anxious to get going, you know, keen to do the job really well, and I just stuck it on Google Maps. I mean, it's a really good sat-nav. But obviously Google Maps don't know you've got a bloody massive trailer on the top. It don't know you're 15.5 foot tall. And I'm there, you know, you trust the sat-nav. The sat-nav will get me where I need to go. And I'd already committed myself to making a turn in. There was no sod that's going to let me back out. And I ended up in a lane where there was a weight restriction. It was an 18-ton weight restriction. So I ended up day one, about an hour and a half into the job, I got myself where I'm trying to turn around this bloody unit. And then you start getting hot and bothered and stressed, and then so I would definitely suggest make your own life easier. Get a sat nav that knows what truck you're in, knows your way a bit, and it'll pick a way through. I downloaded one called Road Lords. It's been really good. It's got me in and out. It's got me everywhere I need to go. It usually gives you 2 or 3 choices of the routes. The first route it'll give you is always the quickest one, but you got to watch that, because when I did a drop in London, the route it tried to take me, because as far as the computer is concerned, the quickest line is straight through the centre of London, out the other side. I mean, in reality, you don't want to be heading into central London unless that's where your drop is. If I followed the route it took me, God knows how long, I'd probably still bloody be there now. Because, you know, centre of London, rush hour traffic, nah mate, nah. Try and avoid it. But you can also use the routes that looks like it might be an extra 15-20 kilometres, but that might be on the motorway. It could get you there 10-15 minutes earlier. I'd always say when you're making these drop-offs, you want to try and avoid going through little towns, avoid as many little country lanes as you can, because you don't know what's coming the other way. It could be enough room for you going down this little B road. You know, I've done a few drops in Hereford and it's beautiful up there. You can be going down one of these B roads and you meet your other lorry coming the other way and you're thinking, shit, you're both in the bush. You're both there with your wing mirror bent in the bush, squeezing past each other. Whereas if I chose the other route, which may have been 20 kilometres further, I could have skipped all that on the motorway and kind of come back on myself, you know what I mean? I got closer to my final destination on the motorway. Again, would have made my life a lot easier, but these are bits and bobs I'm learning. Every day something happens where I'm like, oh shit, put that in the learn pile. You know, it happens every single day. It's always worth double checking your destination. The company I've got, they got a habit of giving you your postcode and missing one of the letters. So you end up in a ballpark, but I mean, yesterday I was doing a drop-off down to Trowbridge, down Bristol, and I ended up following their sat-nav. As I'm pulling in towards this train station, this big train station car park, I'm thinking, hold on, this definitely ain't the supermarket that I was aiming for. Pulled over where I knew it wasn't a point of no return. I knew I could turn it round where I was. Got on Google, found the supermarket I needed. Lo and behold, one of the letters was wrong on the postcode they gave me. It didn't matter, I put 10 minutes out of my way, but it's 10 minutes I could have done without. I mean, if I committed myself and followed it all the way to where that postcode ended, I probably would have been stuck down the end of some industrial estate with not enough room to swing around. So, but again, it's little things you pick up on. Don't be in too much of a rush to get going in the morning. Make sure you do your checks properly, make sure your lights are working, and head off. You've got plenty of time to do these things. Most places you're doing the drop-off, they're fine if you turn up an hour late, you know. You don't want to take the person turning up hours and hours late. They tend to get more riled up if you turned up early. That's when they're not ready for you. So you don't need to rush. Again, like I say, take your time. There's no point in rushing. Doing any damage to the truck, you're going to ruin everyone's day. You're going to lose much more time dealing with an accident. You know, so you can be busting a gut trying to rush it. And I'm saying, I'm going along sometimes, the truck's limited 55, 54, 55, 56, depending on which unit you're in. I can be there on the limiter, sat there doing 55 mile an hour on the cruise control. I'll have some guy absolutely come airing past me, easily doing over 60, using all the momentum from a hill, absolutely busting the gut, and then I'll turn up at the yard and he'll be on the next set of traffic lights in front of me. So he could be busting a gut, and 50 miles down the road he's only gained about 2.5 minutes on me. It's not worth it. You're better off taking your time, making sure everyone gets home safe. Like I said, don't go rushing. You don't need to go flat out everywhere you go. Just be sensible, keep an eye on what's going on around you, make sure the truck's working fine, and just take it in your stride. It is a good job. I mean, you'll speak to some truck drivers and you get, like I say, you meet some right miserable kids. Oh, I hate doing this job, it's a pain in the ass, but it's still doing it. And I mean, there's plenty of money on the table to be earned. It's a good job. If you can entertain yourself inside your head, chuck the radio on, you're happy to listen to the radio through the day, you'll be sweet. I say the hardest part of this job, honestly, is if you end up taking a wrong turn or there's a sudden road closure and a diversion. You've always got that bit of anxiety where you're thinking, shit, is this diversion suitable for my truck? So the last thing you want to do, I've done it, is end up stuck down some streets and you end up basically thinking, can I reverse this unit into this cul-de-sac just to get back out the way I came so I can kind of reassess where I'm going? You know, because it's a horrible feeling when you get that anxiety of thinking, oh no, am I going to hit someone's edge? Am I going to clip any car? And I'm saying, touch wood, it's all been good so far. Because what I would say is, if you're driving along and you can see where you're going, and you hit a set of traffic lights and your sat-nav's going go straight across, and you're looking at the road across and thinking that does not look suitable for the unit or the truck I'm in, don't commit yourself to it. Because if you drive down there and it turns out your gut feeling was right, too late. You know, you ain't reversing out of one, and people won't wait for you to reverse out. I mean, you get the odd person who's quite happy for you to do a manoeuvre, reverse into a car park to unload or something. But once you're out on the main road and people are trying to get home, they ain't gonna wait for you to reverse and get out of everyone's way, because they're the most important thing in the world. They're gonna want to just get past you. They're gonna come flying up behind you. They're not gonna give you a space. They don't care if you can't see them in the mirrors. And you know, you've got to look after number one. So again, take your time, pick your routes. Don't go busting a gut to rush anywhere. Because you know, they're not going to give you any extra praise for getting there early. Be sure as hell, if you do any damage or you do anything wrong, they're definitely going to heap all that criticism on you. So, like I say, try and make your own day easier. If you're not a stress head, your day will go much easier. I mean, yeah, I've had days where people have gone right up my nose, but you just got to reset. You know, you'll get someone coming out and shouting and moaning because you put it on a different bay to what they wanted, but don't get drawn into getting annoyed with them. It's going to ruin your day. You know, they're going to forget about you as soon as you're out. They're going to be bitching at the next driver. Just let it roll off your back and just stay calm. So yeah, as much as I'm going on and on, these kind of the best tips I can give you. Definitely, I'd recommend being a lorry driver. Money's really good. It's a good job. You meet some sound people as well. You get to drive all around some beautiful places. You get to go to some right shitholes as well, man. But yeah, you see some beautiful places. And as long as you stick with the stuff they taught you on your driving test, make sure your bloody lorry's sound and safe. And make sure everyone else around you on the road is safe, and it'll be a really good job. It'll treat you well. There's plenty of work on the table. You know, I've never got to the point where I'm like, oh, I need more work, I need more money, I need more hours. So far, if anything, I'm saying, no, I'm good. I don't need to work Saturday, I don't need to work Sunday. So I couldn't recommend it anymore. Make sure you get with a good agency, because there's good agencies and bad agencies. I mean, phone around, find out what sort of hourly rates you're getting. So I'm lucky that the agency I landed with, I noticed the few jobs I was applying for, turned out I wasn't phoning straight for these jobs. I was noticing it's the same agency's number. So I phoned up my agency, sussed the job I was looking at, saw what the hourly rate was, found up another agency for the same job, working for the same company, and their hourly rate was like £1.30 less. So I was like, right, I went back to the first agency. And also be prepared to travel a little bit as well, because I live in the Rhondda, I live in the Rhondda Valleys. So the closest places to me, I've seen a few jobs by me, and they're offering sort of 11.50 to 12.50 an hour. But I drive up to Newport, which is right on the M4 corridor, so I'm driving 35-40 minutes to work every morning, but the hourly rate is £4 to £6 more an hour. It's worth me driving up a motorway to work every morning to collect a better wage. You know, at the end of the day, it's a bit daft if you want to be a long distance lorry driver, but you're not prepared to drive to work. I mean, it's a bit daft. I'm very lucky as well, again, with the agency I'm with. They've put me through to, it's called like an umbrella company. I won't go right into it unless people want me to. But there's another company I work for who are basically my employer, and they'll cover a bit on expenses, and they sort out my pension, and they'll sort out my holiday money. So to be honest, from talking to these other drivers, I think working through an agency, I seem to be in a much better position than the other guys. I mean, granted, the guys who work for the company I'm currently working with through the agency, I mean, they're guaranteed their weekly wage. Whether they hit how many hours they're doing, they're guaranteed their weekly wage. I'm only guaranteed whatever how many hours I work. If I only work 12 hours, which would never happen, if I only work 12 hours, I'm only getting paid 12 hours. But if I work 60 hours, I'm getting paid 60 hours. Whereas the company I'm driving for at the moment, again, not going to mention their name, I know the drivers who work for them, they get paid 48 hours even if they only drive 30. But if they do 54 hours, they're still getting paid 48. So all of those fellas, they're not wanting to work Friday. You know, they're thinking, sod that, they've done their hours on Thursday. They're like, I'm done, I'm not working Friday. So obviously they want to come in below their 48 rather than going over it. Whereas with agency, they'll have you going left, right and centre, use every driving hour you've got if you will let them sort of boss you round. And I say the first week I did 62 hours. It's on my ass. Absolutely on my ass. Some really long days. But when the wages hit my bank, I was like, yes, happy days. But now I know I don't need to do that. I know what I need to live on. You know, I don't need to be busting her guts to get as many hours under my belt as possible. My kids are still young, you know. Some days I'm home, I can go pick them up from school. Some days I don't start till later, I can take them to school. Yeah, that's what life's all about. You work to live, you don't live to work. I mean, when they're older and they've left home and I'm finishing knocking on the rest of my mortgage on the head, yeah, I probably will stick the hours in and just go nuts, but you don't need to. So I'm saying you don't need, there's plenty of options. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say. So if you are going agency or thinking about it, yeah, I'd definitely go for it. As much as you're going to get people who say, no, it's a nightmare. Personal experience, nah, it's been good. The agency I'm with, they're sound. I mean, I booked off this Friday. I guarantee they'll phone me up and say, oh, well, if you can work Friday, we can do it for this hourly rate. And another £1 will suddenly appear an hour. But, you know, hold your ground. You don't want to be known as the guy. You want to be known as being dependable, but you don't want them to remember you as being a pushover. So hold your ground, find out how many hours and what sort of money you want to earn, go for it. Try and keep a cool head, and remember what you were taught. Try and get those the walk around routines. You know, when I did my test, I don't know how they taught you, but like when you're checking your truck, so you don't want to drive off and find you haven't done your kingpin, so have sort of a walk around routine set in your head. You know, you go around, check your brakes and your lights, stuff like that after you've hooked up. What the guys taught me when I learned was remember the word black. So when you go up and you're dropping off your trailer, remember the word black. So you go and do the brake, drop the legs, do your airlines, clip, kingpin, B-L-A-C-K. So every time I'm walking around, and then when you're hooking up to a trailer, it's the other way round. You reverse in, you hear your big clunk, so you go, right, there's the kingpin to check. Put your clip in, go and do your airlines, do your legs, take the brake off, bam, check your lights, check everything else, and you're good to hit the road and roll. So it's good to just have these little methods, and you get used to doing it. I mean, that's how I do it, because it's nice and easy to remember. Just remember black. Brakes, legs, airlines, clip, kingpin. Job done. I know I've done all that. I'm not going to drive off. My trailer's not going to bloody fall off as soon as I hit the slip road as I'm trying to pull out the yard. And I mean, once you're out the yard, you're almost like your own boss. You know where you're going, you know what you need to do. Just get there safe, get your load unloaded, call back into base. You happy for me to come back empty? Am I going anywhere else? Usually they're like, oh, why are you there? Tone head off. It's the job. Don't matter. Don't matter. You're getting paid. And yeah, you get to the point where you enjoy it. You don't. If you find you're coming into work and you're thinking, oh, Jesus, work again, it's not for you. It's not for you. I've had that in the past with other jobs I've done. With this now, yeah, getting out of bed's a bloody pain in the ass when you're thinking, oh, great, the alarm's set for 4 o'clock. But at the end of the day, you start early, you tend to finish early. You get paid for all the hours you do. That's the problem. We're all out there trying to earn a wage. So yeah, so sorry if I've rambled on. Hopefully some of the stuff I said might be helpful if anyone's bothered watching, if I've even bothered uploading it. But yeah, there's my take on working for an agency. Things to look out for, and things to look out for with the job. But on the whole, yeah, go for it. Go for it. It's a good job. Good job, good people. And as long as you're sensible and you're not being an idiot about it, not getting overconfident, it's a good job. So, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching if any of you bothered, because it's a bloody long video. Cheers, you all take care.